What's up YouTube, Dale here from Zephyr. Today we are going to be doing a meta tier list post Supreme Darkness. So I've got 46 decks up here. This is currently being recorded as a live stream, so I might update and add decks to this as we go if I have missed any off by mistake, so apologies on that one. Other than that, we're going to take you through an entire tier list. I'm basically going to work my way through some of the older decks, and then you'll see that the last few decks up on the screen are the newer ones, so stuff like 10U Sword Soul, Blue Eyes when they get arguably a bit of support off the back of the Primites. You got Crystron, Goblin Bikers, White Forest / Azaminas. So you've got loads of different options that I'll put up there so you can kind of have a bit of an understanding. And I'm going to try and take you through all of my thoughts and opinions on these particular type of decks, where I feel they currently sit, how I feel they sit in those particular tiers, and work it from there. So, with all of that out of the way, please smash that like button, hit that notification bell, and subscribe so you do not miss out on any more upcoming content. I'm going to dive head first into this one, and we're going to start off with Yugiohs and Malice. I'm just going to dump them straight away in the top tier. Now, I'm not saying that these are tier 0. As I tried to explain previously, I haven't designed these to be tier 0 because I don't think any deck right now is tier 0. I'm currently trying to find the Malice card that I put up here, and I don't think there is a Malice card. Did I honestly forget to put Malice in here? That would just be... No, I didn't. There you go. Hearts of Crypta. I know I put it somewhere. There we go. So, I'm just going to put these up there. I'm also going to put Fiendsmith because I don't think that you play Fiendsmith as a pure deck, even with the new support. I feel like Fiendsmith kind of filters into all of this, and so does technically Sky Strikers. But I'm probably going to treat maybe Fiendsmith as its own... Can Fiendsmith... No, I'm not going to treat Fiendsmith as his own deck. Fiendsmith is going to be an engine that's going to be abused in every other deck around, even with Goblin Bikers, and I just feel that the engine itself is like top tier 1 technically. It's not tier 0. So pretty quite straightforward on that one. I don't think that's going to leave anyone guessing on that one. They are what they are. Now, I think I might have confused myself or like made it a bit more complicated with anti-meta and competitive, because obviously competitive, I feel that most decks can be competitive at a high level. Anti-meta, I'm going to say, are like decks that can really, really compete close to the top tier decks. So the way that this tier marker is going to look or going to work is probably the top is where you want to be aiming to be. That's the decks you're probably going to see the most consistently at these big events. And when we're looking at stuff like YCS Birmingham coming out, and I believe there is an American one this weekend, that's kind of what you're going to be aiming for to try and take on. So we'll start off with Thunder Dragons, which will be our first one. I wouldn't say that Thunder Dragons is anti-meta because Colossus just isn't the boss monster that it once was. That being said, I do feel that they could put up a bit of a fight because being able to stop your opponent searching can be quite damaging. The issue is when you look at Malice, they can play stuff like D-Shifter, which takes away the graveyard. You've got stuff like the Yugioh that can constantly just keep popping your cards when you're trying to put them on the board, trying to activate effects, which means you no longer ever really have a monster on the board to turn into Colossus. Not to mention that Titan is a when effect, so when you are utilising Detonator, Detonate can always chain to a Thunder monster, which means they'll always miss their timing. I wouldn't say that they're local level, but I do feel that if you build them correctly, they can compete. Especially if you play like the Chaos version or if you want to play the Mill version. There's just so many different options. The issue is when you're trying to compare them to Yugioh and Malice, I don't feel that they stand a chance just because Malice can take away their graveyard and they can banish all of their cards quite easily, and then Yugioh will just constantly keep responding, so they never really leave you with fodder on the board, and that's where you need to rely on the Chaos cards a little bit more. I feel that when you're looking at like toss style decks, and what I mean by that is stuff like Orcust, which I haven't put up here yet because I feel Orcust will get better in the future. We'll talk about them in a future tier list because we don't even know if we're still going to guarantee to get them here in the TCG yet. Chances are they'll probably come out in the Battles of Legend that we'll get out later in the year. And then, of course, you can consider stuff like Sky Striker. I feel the issue with cards like that is back in the TOS format, most of the high-level decks were like 1 or 2 cards with a bit of luck behind them to get them going. Whereas now, there's just so many one-card combos that give you everything on the board. And then, because that one card does so much, you always have then the fallback of either the hand traps that you're going to be playing yourself, or, of course, you've got the other cards you're going to be playing. So for me, I feel that they can complete, but maybe they do sit more comfortably in the local level, just because I feel for them to break through to be the competitive style deck, they need to be a little bit more. Bestial Dragon Control. Are we talking about Dragon Link like Thunder Dragon, Dragon Link Bestial, or are you talking about just Dragon Link Bestial? If you're talking about Dragon Link Bestial, I don't think I've got any Dragon Link style up here. I honestly just don't think that they're there. I don't think that they're ready. Because they just hit so much, they keep getting knocked back, and I probably don't count Bestials as like their own deck right now because again they're just an engine that gets put into stuff. They're like hand traps. It's like saying, okay, well, this Ash Blossom style deck, or the Ghost, like technically a Ghost Sister deck. If the format becomes playing like 3 Ghost Spell, 3 Ghost Sister, 3 Ashes, 3 Mourners, does that then class it as a Ghost Sister deck? Or is it like, oh, Ryzeal featuring Ghost Sisters? Do you get where I'm coming from on that one? I could be wrong. If we feel that we need to add Dragon Link to it, I can do. That's not an issue at all. Madolche, I feel that Madolche can compete, but I feel that it really does take a competent pilot, and the issue is, in the current format, it can't really be anti-meta because it just can't play through so many hand traps. Like, its biggest weakness on stuff like Angeli gets hit by Ashes, get hit by Dragon Rulers. Yeah, I could add Dragon Rulers. That's a good one. I'll tell you what, I'll add Dragon Link and I'll add Dragon Rulers because I think they're both kind of cool. I think Dragon Rulers right now, it gets better when we get the new cards. But the new cards aren't going to be coming until, like, we've got a couple of months now still. Let's go with Striker Dragon. Yeah, let's go Striker Dragon for the Dragon Link. I know, obviously, it works with Bestials. That's probably where you're going to be playing them more than anything. But I'm quite happy to add both of those in. They get better with the Blue Eye Structure deck. Yeah, okay, so again, still, you need the Blue Eye Structure deck. That's the issue. Like, I'm not counting Blue Eyes with the Blue Eye Structure deck yet. I'm counting Blue Eyes with just the addition of Primite Barrel. That's literally all I'm doing with on that one. So Madolches, I'll go to Striker Dragon. I'll go to Dragon Link and I'll go to Dragon Rulers in a second. So Madolches, I feel that they can compete. I feel that it takes a really good pilot. I wouldn't say it's anti-meta though, and I wouldn't say it's fully competitive. I mean, maybe it is competitive. I just think it's really tricky. Like, I don't think I could see Madolche doing insanely well. Probably shuffle that one that way, maybe. I don't think I can see Madolche. I suppose you also got to consider the Mitsuguris as well with the Ryzeals. I digress. So, I don't know with Madolches, because I feel that Madolches, they need their graveyard. So they obviously have the same issue with in the Malice matchup if Shifter is around. They also have an issue against Ryzeal. They kind of sit within the same position of Thunder Dragon, but probably better than Thunder Dragon. So maybe they creep into the competitive area. But I haven't really thought about what I'm classing as competitive. So, I mean, like, if I'm going to go, like, tier 1, tier 2, it's like, tier 1, tier 1.5, that's probably how I should do it. Tier 1, tier 1.5, tier 2, tier 3, T4. That's probably how I should do it. Can I change these? Let's try and, let's clear this up. Let's do it that way. And let's do this as, anti-meta is 1.5. So they're close to the meta, but, you know, not direct. Synchros, I think Synchros can do well at local level, personally. I think if you can pilot that well, and like one of the best people that do this is it Wolf? Apologies, I'll get I won't get the exact name correct, but I'm pretty sure it's Wolf, isn't it? He just dropped one. He's really good at Synchro stuff. I'm really bad at this. I can't remember off the top of my head. What's his name? He usually pops up when I do these. No. It's really bad. I've just typed in Synchro Yu-Gi-Oh! And... is it Wolf 365? I think it's Wolf 365, isn't it? I'm getting Eternal. No, it's not Wolf 365. What is it? Yu-Gi-Oh! Adventure Crystron. I saw this pop up on my feed. He did an Adventure Crystron. 037 Wolf, there we go. Yeah, he's actually really, really good with Synchro stuff. He's like the go-to tuber for Synchro stuff. So check out his stuff. Yeah, I think with a competent pilot, they can do really, really well. But again, it probably sits with the Madolche level, in my opinion. Gimmick Puppets, again, I wouldn't class Gimmick Puppies, and I don't mean this in an offensive way. I wouldn't class Gimmick Puppies as highly competitive or anti-meta, because like what they try to do is very direct. And when you have a deck that locks them into certain things, especially when you lock them into in-archetypal cards. So what I mean by that is, when you look at Sword Soul, they lock you into worms. So you have a bit more, not Sword Souls directly, but like Tenyis, lock you into worms. So you have the whole type of worms to play with. Synchrons lock you into Synchro, so you have all of the Synchros to play with, within reason. Whereas when you're playing something like Gimmick Puppets that say you can only play Gimmick Puppets, it's a little bit more restricting. So you only have one route that you can go. And if you get, it's kind of like Valkyries as well. Like Valkyries, you only can have Valkyries on the field to get their best card to work. So, Labyrinths, I think Labyrinths are anti-meta. I honestly do. I think Labyrinths are going to be one of those decks right now that is just so annoying to face. And I feel that what I don't like about Labyrinth is once they get the foothold in the game, they just go and go and go. And it's very hard. Like, if you're playing a grind game against Labyrinth, it's very tricky to beat them. Because I think that they will 99% of the time win the grind game. Obviously, with Fiendsmiths running around, that constantly keeps giving the other person that is playing the Fiendsmiths the grind element. But the control factors, the floodgate factors, the ripping from the hand, I'm pretty sure they actually get a bit of a semi-buff as well with the Alba Q, because the Alba Q allows them to revive their fiends from the graveyard, and it's a fiend link monster. So they can just utilise more monsters to get to it and then build off from the back of there, which is insane. As much as I would love to put Exodia on competitive, I think I would be doing a disjustice to Exodia, putting Exodia in competitive, but then putting everything else down here, because as much as I love Exodia, I love the aggression that it has, I love the grind that it can have, or the lock that it can have as well. I just feel that if I'm trying to take competitive, like... Oh, what do I reckon? I reckon if you went to... I'm trying to think how best to place this. If I went to a YCS Birmingham, if I'm going to YCS Birmingham, would I expect to see some Exodia lists out of... Let's say 1,000 people go to Birmingham. I could be completely wrong. It could only be like 100 or whatever. But it'll be more than 100. But let's say out of 1,000 people, do I expect to see more Exodias than I would do Synchros, Gimmick Puppets, Thunder Dragons, and Madolche? The answer, in my opinion, would be yes. Do I feel that the Exodia deck can compete against Malice and Ryziel? I think that it can definitely compete against the Malice. I think that it can definitely compete against the Ryziel. But the issue is, with the field spell can actually negate the attack stat buff of the Exodia, which is really annoying. So it might not have the best... It definitely is an anti-meta. I'll put it in competitive for now, but honestly, I think it probably fits within the local level here. I feel that it kind of has the same thing with Madolche. The only difference is this deck can run Shifter and just not care about its graveyard. Snake Eyes, I'm not even going to class it as casual fun. Well, maybe I will. I'll class it as casual fun. Snake Eyes, I think Snake Eyes on its own, there's no go. I think with Snake Eyes, I'm going to have to put it with Fire Kings. So if I was going to put Fire Kings with Snake Eyes, I mean, yeah, I don't even think you'd put it with Snake Eyes anymore, would you? I just think that these two are local level right now. I don't think you play Snake Eyes Pure anymore. You have to play like Snake Eyes Fire King or Snake Eyes Azamina or something along those lines just to kind of make them compete and be on the level you want them to be. So, Ryujis, I love Ryuji so much. I really do have a lot of fun with them. But yeah, they're local level. Arguably, they could even be considered as casual fun. I feel like the Ryuji dinos makes dinos not worse, but makes them a little bit less consistent on the dino side of it. So it doesn't really help it. The Sword Soul, it does make it better, but now that you've got the Tenyis, like, you're not going to want to go for the Ryujis. Like, you'll probably only jump between the Ryujis and the Tenyis if you want a bit of fun. Dinomorphia is probably the best version of it now because it doesn't really take away with what the Dinomorphias want to do. So if you were to say to me Ryuji with Dinomorphias, I'd probably put it in the high level of the locals because I think Dinomorphias can actually be quite competitive in the future. But honestly, I think that the Ryujis now... I reckon you could definitely take it to local level. It definitely sits in this bracket here. You could definitely take it to local level. But I feel like the consistency of all of these in comparison to something like this is just a little bit more. And a draw on this deck completely shuts it down, like stops it dead. Whereas a draw on this deck can keep playing, a draw on this deck can keep playing, a draw on this deck can definitely keep playing. This makes it a bit awkward, but can still play, and so can those. Dark Magician, sad. My boy is only casual fun. Flu. Flu is always a difficult one. I suppose if I'm putting... I can't really say that because like Flu struggle with Droll. They'll struggle with Ash. They'll struggle with Imperm, Veiler. There's just too many hand traps right now that deal with it. And then the only thing that Flu have going for it is if your opponent chooses to have Fluros in their side deck rather than Perulia, then they're like, yeah, we don't care. But if they have Perulia, you're in trouble. So I suppose on that grey area, you could probably put Flu in this local level, but I would not put it. I'm not opposed to it branching into the competitive aspect. I reckon it could branch into the competitive aspect, probably above all of these if you're a good pilot. So Dark Magician with Primite is 100% fun. 100% fun. I love that version of Dark Magician. Like, that's my go-to version of Dark Magician right now, especially with Beryl. So the Beryl text, where it lets you recycle it during each standby phase, is mental, because then it just means that you just go for the Drill Beam. And you're always going to have Drill Beam active. And in a Dark Magician version, you always have Drill Beam active, you'll have Roar active as well. It's just absolutely mental. So yeah, I agree with you. Definitely fun. Azamina. And now Azamina did get some nice support. I wouldn't say that Azamina could be played on its own, But I feel the engine is definitely competitive. Like, it's an engine that could be splashed in a lot of things. And I'm not classing this with the White Forests yet, because the White Forests are a little bit later on. But, like, White Forests... I think I have White Forests up here somewhere. I thought I had them on their own. I could be wrong, though. Nope, I don't have White Forest on their own. I guess I replaced them with this guy. So I'll tell you what. The new White Forest card with... it's kind of difficult, though, because White Forest with Runic as well definitely competes. Like, White Forest Azamina will definitely compete. And so will... I'm just going to put the Runics up here as well. I don't think the Runics are as powerful as they were. If they were as powerful when Joshua Shrimp was playing them back in YCS Lille, I would definitely put them as anti-meta. But I feel that when you mix... If you were to mix all three of these together, which you could very well do and get away with it, I reckon you could create like a 60-card absolute monstrosity. But I wouldn't be opposed to this sneaking up here, you know. I wouldn't be opposed to that. Maybe with this. Because the White Forest cards themselves are actually insane. They're such a good deck. And then the new card as well is insanely good. And they have so many more cards that now allow you to reset them once they've been sent. Like the new trap card, it lets you bounce cards as well, which is really cool. So, I mean, I'm not opposed to having them up there. I feel that I'll see a lot of these at YCS Birmingham, to be honest. Bugs, insect, bugs, you name it, like casual fun. I'm just going to put Diamond Magician there because it's always going to be my favourite. Bugs are really, really fun to play around with, but they're just nowhere near they used to be. And unfortunately, sorry to anyone that is a branded player. Like, don't get me wrong, I enjoy branded. I like branded. But I arguably can't put branded in the competitive level. They just don't have what they used to have. It's such a shame to see how far branded has fallen because of Branded Fusion to 2. Yes, of course, if you want to mix them with something, they will be better. If you were to go heavier on the bestials, they will be better. Yes, there are some semi-replacements to the Branded Fusion. Yes, you could play them with Azaminas as well. There are ways of being able to bring it up a level. There is no debate about that. I completely agree. But right now, if you were just to play good old-fashioned branded Despia, no chance. It's just such a sad thing that it just can't do what it used to do. And all that's happened is Branded Fusion's been... Sky Strikers. Now, Sky Strikers, I wouldn't say that Sky Strikers on its own fares any better than these three down here. Like, it probably fares about here. It could definitely do local level, but like a pure striker version, and I'm talking pure, I'm talking like, unless you're Ryan Yu that can pilot it really, really well, or you're on a full-on board breaker version, and even then, a full-on board breaker version of Sky Strikers will struggle against the grind game of Malice and Ryziel, and even in Labyrinths, White Forest. Like, the grind games of everything above it will be so much stronger. Maybe not to this level. Maybe that's where you could arguably say that Striker sneaks in here. But at that point, I mean, that's kind of personal preference. I would not be opposed for it to be in this level, but I feel that it probably sits more at that level here, in my opinion. Cash Tierers, I wouldn't say Cash Tierers are anti-meta, but when you utilize them as an engine, they can definitely be competitive. Because I would class anti-meta about what I class anti-meta as is they have good, fairly decent and fair matchups against any Ryziel variant and any Malice variant. Whereas I don't think that Cash Tierers have that good of a matchup against a Malice matchup, like a Malice Mirror, a Malice matchup. That being said, I do feel that stuff like Unicorn can snipe out of the Malice deck, and that's when you start getting rid of like White Binder. Like, Unicorn would be the go-to card, because getting rid of their cards, like D-Shifter is not a thing for them anymore. Like, it just doesn't help them as much. Birth against Malice, not going to be effective for you. But being able to like look at your opponent's extra deck and take away their one-offs is good. But against Ryziel, that strategy doesn't work. So it's like the strategy of D-Shifter against Ryziel will be better for you. But the looking at their extra deck, not going to be good for you because they play like 2 to 3 detonators, 2 to 3 duo drives, like all of that stuff just doesn't become an issue, like become an issue for them. So, Memento. Now, I hear conflicting things about Memento because some people are telling me like it's insanely powerful. I personally haven't played it in this current format. Some people tell me it's insanely powerful. But then I think it takes a really good pilot to do it justice and get it to the way that it needs to go and not have to win in like time cons or anything like that. Like, it combos off for a long time, but their combo is semi-linear, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful manner. It's semi-linear as in like it knows exactly what endboard it wants to get to, but to get to that endboard it has to go through this exact chain of events with some slight detours. So that being said, it's probably like the highest of the competitive in my opinion. it could sneak into anti-meta. So again, I wouldn't be opposed if it goes up to anti-meta. But for me right now, it's one of them ones where you need to kind of take into account the ceiling of it, like how good of a pilot you need to be with the deck in order to get it to compete with the Malices, with the Ryziels. Again, in a Malice matchup, Shifter really does hurt it, but in a Ryziel matchup, they can constantly just keep getting rid of the cards so you don't have the cards on the board to maintain and do what it needs to do. So, yeah, I mean, if we wanted to put it higher up, I would not be opposed to that. Mimigul's like, I'm going to have to put Mimigul's casual fun. Like, Dominus Impulse absolutely killed this deck. Absolutely killed it. Because the issue is, if you face a Dominus Impulse deck, it's technically an auto lose. Because as soon as they activate their Dominus Impulse, game over. And if they see that Dominus Impulse and you're going first, they drop it and then that's it. Your entire strategy just goes out the window. So, yeah, I'm sorry. But Mimigul's in while Dominus Impulse is around, just no. No. Sharks, as an engine, Sharks can do quite well. It's quite a nice little rank 4 engine for the Ryziels. I do feel that they can go off very easily. They can get protection from Nibiru very early, very easily. They have rank 4 access, and this is what I was talking about earlier, is a lot of decks like the Gimmick Puppies will say you can only play Gimmick Puppets, whereas the Sharks say, right, well, you can only play XYZs or you can only play Aquas. Like, it gives you a little bit more berth to kind of play around with. Pearlies. Pearlies are another interesting one because I feel Pearlies can kind of sneak in this competitive area. I feel it's one that a lot of people forget about, but I also feel that if we get into a format where people are siding in Kaijus, then the Pearlies aren't as threatening as they would be. It's still really good what they can access, and I've had people tell me that there's people playing Pearly Goblin Bikers, which is just disgustingly good if that's the case. So I can definitely see that them float and compete. So I'm more happy putting them in a competitive level than I am putting them down here. Rescue Ace. Rescue Ace is tricky because, again, without the Snake Eyes, they don't really have that bridge that they need. Yes, they can be played semi-pure and it'll still do some stuff, but I feel that like the control factor just gets beaten and the grind game just gets beaten, so it probably sits within this element here just because of the loss of Snake Eyes. Like, it just doesn't do them justice. Ritual Beasts. Ritual Beasts is such a tricky one. I feel it needs a pilot to take it to this level. If you're just talking about the deck without taking the pilot into account, then it has to be local level. Because I feel that Ritual Beasts are a semi, like, confusing, like, it does need you to be semi-competent. On top of that as well, it can run in headfirst into Nibiru's. D-Shifter is no longer just like an auto win for them anymore. It can get to Colossus and it can get to Protoss, but again, both those cards aren't auto win cards anymore in this current format. Like, there are decks that can play around it. The fact of the matter is, you can't really call anything that damaging. Like, you would have to turn one of your monsters into Cyverse in a Ritual Beast deck to lock out Malice. Yes, Dark can cause them a couple of issues as well. But then when you look at Ryziels, again, Ryziels will play different attributes, different types. So, like, trying to call attributes or trying to call types just makes it a little bit more convoluted and a little bit more tricky to kind of do and do it successfully. So, Six Samurai. I mean, the FTK version is probably the better version just because of how consistent it can be. But, like, the combo version is just better for me. And, you know, I feel that it could definitely go to local level. But again, as I was saying earlier, when you look at all these cards up here and all these decks up here, they have, like, 1 card combos, 1.5 card combos, like, 1 card combos and 2 card combos. Whereas with Six Samurais, they're, like, 3 card combos. Very, like, wide range of 3 card combos. It's like, okay, you need a starter, an extender, and another extender. And you play loads of those. But, yeah. Centurion kind of just, like, dropped off at the end of the earth. Like, Centurion was, like, anti-meta. It was, like, up here. And then Ryziel and Malice came out and it just went, boff. I feel that Centurions, I don't even think they can be competitive anymore. I think, like, a lot of people bought into the pack hype. And then when they realised that it's nowhere near as good as it once was, a lot of people dropped it. So, Tempai. Now, okay. If anyone comes to me and says, Tempai is meta because it won the French or German or Italian Open, no, it didn't, all right? The deck was playing Cash Tierers, it was playing Fiendsmith, and it was playing Tempai. That is not a Tempai deck. That is a Tenpai Fiendsmith Kashtira deck. That's like 3 engines all over the place. There is no way Tenpai is a meta deck. It's not anti-meta. You could arguably say it's competitive, but even then, its consistency is so shot that it can't be played pure. And you literally have to play go second, hope you get the cards you need. Like, it's very easy to win a game once you get the piece you need, but if you don't get the piece you need, it's not doing anything. So, I kind of, it's kind of like the, Centurion, where like, but the difference is the Centurion died because of hype, whereas, this has kind of died like because of the ban list. Like the ban list has just absolutely nuked it. So yeah, like the ban list completely shook it apart, which is like massively damaging. Vanquish Soul. What is the Perulia? Someone said that the new Mole Chummy. It's an Earth, isn't it? Is it an Earth? Because someone was saying they wanted to get one for the Vanquish Soul deck. Mole Chummy Meowis. Yes, an Earth. So someone was saying they wanted to get it for their Vanquish Soul deck because you reveal it as an Earth. So it's like a hand trap that can float around. Interesting, but yeah, I Vanquish Soul, it's probably local level, but honestly, it probably arguably more casual fun. Like, it can just get stopped with so much now. Like, Dominus Impulse stops it. Ash stops it. Imperm stops it. Nibiru can stop it if it overextends. Like, it's kind of cool. Oh, yeah! Cyber Dragons. I'm glad you reminded me of that. Probably, like, machines in general. I forgot about Clockwork Knight. I'll tell you what, I'm going to put Clockwork Knight in here instead. The issue is really with the issue with Cyber Dragons is by the time you make Clockwork Knight, let me just double check the wording on Clockwork Knight. So if this card is ink summoned, you send a face-up continuous spell you control to the graveyard, add 1 Clockwork Knight from the deck to the hand, target a machine monster with 1,000 or less attacking your graveyard, tribute a monster, except this card if you do special. So the issue is, and Cyber Dragon, if I remember rightly, is if your opponent controls a monster and you control no monsters. So that's the issue with the Cyber Dragon, is like, for you to get the benefit out of the back of it, like to get the most value out of the back of it, you would have to special summon down your Cyber Dragon, work your way into Clockwork Knight, and leave the Cyber Dragon on the board, and then contact fuse. So like, it's a lot of more steps. Melodious is another one. Very good shout. And I know Jesse Cotton's been experimenting with Melodious, all right? I know that. I'm not buying into that hype. Like, I'm not gonna go on the misleading path, okay? Decks are still good. There's no doubt about that, but they're not like when people are like, oh, I just won a tournament with this like £30 understated, forgotten about meta deck. It's like there's a reason it doesn't do it everywhere. So Voice's Voice, I'll carry on with the rest in a minute. Voice's Voice, I think it can compete 100%. It's probably not to the level of this, but it can definitely compete for sure. Like, depending on what version you go with, whether you go for the Ryujis, which I think is a really kind of cool version, whether you just play it pure, but you play so many, you've got space for hand traps. All it really comes down to is protecting your starter, protecting your low or your diviner. If your low and your diviner get stopped, you're in trouble. But if you're able to protect it because maybe you play cross out, or maybe you just open well enough, or your opponent doesn't open up well enough, that's the big difference. So Voice's Voice, I'm happy to put in competitive. Dragon Link Bestial, or just Dragon Link Piles. I mean, sharks aren't compared. Like, if you were to so what I'm trying to say with competitive decks is these are decks that I will see at YCS level. They also have really good consistent matchups against Ryziels and Malices. Honestly, hand on heart, I don't feel that Sharks have that consistent matchup against Malice and Ryziel. Do I feel that a Shark... So what I would say is anything at local level, I feel could be that odd one deck, like the hero deck that we've seen, like the Ancient Gear deck, that will sneak into, that they can sneak into a top cut without a doubt. Whereas everything on competitive level and above, I would expect we would, if we saw them in a top cut, we wouldn't be shocked and surprised. We'd be like, yeah, okay, I can see that happening. Whereas if any of these got into a top cut of a big event like a YCS, you'd be like, oh damn. And certain things would have had to have been in motion. Like they would have had to get good pairings, good draws, good pilot. All of that stuff comes together. And then that's when you get to that point. Dragon Link piles. I personally, and I could be proven wrong on this one because I haven't really seen Dragon decks be abused to the level, maybe. But I just don't feel that they get where they need to go. I get the Bestial part, but then does it just become a Bestial deck? I don't feel that they have the protection like they used to with Savage Dragon. I don't feel that they have the out-and-out aggression that they used to have. I feel that with Bestials running around in the top-level decks and in the side decks, they have more counters to them. So I definitely don't feel that it's on the high level of competitiveness. And if I saw them in a top cut, I would probably be more shocked than I would be as opposed to these ones. We Sharks will one day top and shock everyone. I hope it is. I really do hope that Sharks do top. I think it's a really kind of cool deck, but just doesn't really have it. Thoughts on Dynamorphia? I mentioned this earlier. Like, it's probably one of the better versions with the Ryujis. Like, the Ryujis with voicing Dynamorphia are definitely the better version. The issue with Dynamorphia, especially at a high-level competitive event, is they burn their life points away way too quickly. And sad to say it, will almost guarantee you that you will never see a Dynamorphia deck on the top end tables because they will get slow played out of game. 100%. Like, as a Dynamorphia player, you will have to be so fast, so rapid, and know every particular type of response of what happens. So if your opponent does this to you, you know exactly where you go. So what you do is you minimize all of your thinking time so that you can build your board, get everything you need to do, know every time to scoop and every time to learn around to where you go with it. Otherwise, I think a high-level competitive player, if they lose game 1 or win game 1, lose game 2, they will drag out game 3 or rush you in game 3. Like, I just think it's so difficult with a deck that puts its life points down to like 1 life point to win a game, because there will be people out there, and it's sad to say, there will be people out there that will look at their watch and go, 3 minutes left, I've got 8,000 life points, my opponent has a 1 life point less, and they go, thinking, and they stay within this grey area. That's what I hate about this game, is there are players out there that will stay within this grey area, and you can be like, Judge, he's slow playing me, and the judge will be like, okay, I'll stand there and watch to make sure he doesn't slow play you, and by the time it gets to that point, they're like, alright, he's not slow playing you, he's just using up their time. In the Greek locals, Bestial Control is a very popular deck. Most of them, of course, there you go. Fiendsmith engines, Dogmaticas, or Cartesia, of course. It's like, it's not like just a Dragoning deck. It's not straightforward, which is a shame. But basically, they try to maintain control over the field and grave by trying to neutralize all the Fiendsmiths that run rampant these days. Yeah, I get that. They're basically just a really good counter to Fiendsmiths. So then, if your deck doesn't play Fiendsmith, ergo Malice Striker, they actually then benefit against the Bestials. Like, this is what I do like about the format, is there is no one engine that is that. There's not like, I mean, Fiendsmith is the dominant engine, but there's not like there isn't a counter to Fiendsmiths, and that's where the Bestials in the Malice kind of come into play, and it's like back and forth. Malice is really annoying to face. I 100% agree. I think Ryzu are just as annoying. I think they're both as annoying as each other. Melodious, again, I feel Melodious can be at the high end here. I wouldn't be surprised if a Melodious snuck into a top cut, though, to be honest. So I wouldn't be opposed to seeing a Melodious here, because I think a Melodious played right. Their cards are so good. It kind of has the same issue, though, as kind of like Gimmick Puppets, but not so much, because it can be a bit more varied. The bouncing is still really good. The Shabirta DD Crow, not so great in a Malice matchup, though. That's the big issue. That's where I think it's got weaker. And I think it will struggle against a pre-built Ryziel board, just because they keep poking away at it and poking away at the board that you're trying to build, and you're trying to put your scales together, and they're like, no, Ryziel, kill it. You put another scale down, they're like, Ryziel, kill it. And you're just like, really? So I think it could be quite tough to build your board with it. But I wouldn't be surprised if they did sneak into a top cut. Dragon Rulers, like right now, they're casual fun. Like you could probably say they're local level, but then I feel that when you're putting Dragon Rulers into local level, it doesn't become just Dragon Rulers. It becomes Dragon Rulers with Cashteros, or Dragon Rulers with Bestials, Dragon Rulers with Fiendsmith. Like when Dragon Rulers get their new support in Alliance Insight, I reckon they could compete. I reckon they become the new Dragon Link style deck, and I reckon they sit within the competitive area or the local level area for sure. Right now, really, really fun deck, but I wouldn't say that they could. They might be able to get a couple of local wins, but if they're getting a couple of local wins, and more times than not, when I see profiles where they're like, oh, Dragon Rulers win locals, I'm like, okay, cool, let's see what you're playing. And it's like, yeah, so I was playing 2 of each of the big guys, 1 of each of the little guys, and then here's the Fiendsmith engine, and then here's the Kashtira engine, and you're like, okay, cool, so you haven't really done a lot. You're probably relying more on those engines than you are on the Dragon Rulers. Dark Worlds, I mean, Dark Worlds are just degenerate. Like, I play Dark Worlds, they are just degenerate. I really hope that the leaks we got a few months back were real, but we haven't actually seen any news about it whatsoever. So I think they could honestly be fan-made, because the cards that got leaked were just crazy good. As much as I would love to put them higher, I just feel that there are sometimes, again, Dark Worlds, if it got into a top 64 of an event, I would be shocked, because they have to deal with shifters, they have to deal with drolls sometimes, they have to deal with constant destruction off the back of the Ryzeals. Like, when you think about it, Ryzeals have like 3 destructions and 1 negate just off of their detonator and field spell, which is absolutely insane. I'm trying to remember what the Dark World leaks were. There was a new fusion monster, and there was a new monster. But like, conveniently, only one person saw these leaks. Only one person shared these leaks. And the way the cards were written were just so badly translated. You're like, they seem more like fan-made. But if they were real, I was like, what I'll do, I wasn't going to share them with people. I was like, I'll wait until these get confirmed by like a legitimate source. And the fact that it looks like 90% of Alliance Insight has been revealed, it doesn't look like it's coming in a core set anytime soon. So I was a little bit skeptical with it, and I was like, I'm just going to leave it there. Yubel. Would I class Yubel as anti-meta? Probably. I would say that Yubel is more comfortable as a competitive deck, even with 1 Phantom, because if you pilot it right, you can recycle your Phantom very easily. I would say it's definitely better than competitive, so I think Yubel definitely falls within here. Chimera, Fiendsmith, Illusion, I feel that it can also fit within here. I feel that it's stronger than these ones down here, and I feel that it does have very good matchups against these, because being able to rip from the hand is very good. Guardian Chimera to destroy can stop you building up a board. The Chimera is the fact that they can banish and constantly keep recycling from the grave. And the one thing that a lot of people forget is their monsters aren't all lights and darks. There's like lights, darks, earths, and winds, so they could be massively annoying to try and bestial or stop or any of that jazz. So yeah, I think Chimera, especially if you put a branded engine in or a Fiendsmith engine in, can definitely compete. So, okay, we're now on to the new decks, or decks that have got new lots of support. Turtle Master has also asked, how do you counter Malice? Well, the big thing with Malice is if you drop an Artifact Lancer on them, they can't play. And the worst thing about going forward is the Albula Q can recycle the Lancia from the graveyard. So what you would do, and this I've seen this quite a lot, is you go... You go Artifact Dagda, set the Scythe, make Albula Q. During your opponent's turn, Albula Q destroys your own set Artifact Scythe. Scythe then summons itself onto the board. You then use Scythe on the board to lance your opponent. Then it comes back to your turn. Your Albula Q comes back to the board. You use Albula Q again to bring the Lancia back to the board. You could then use it as link materials if you wanted to. Build up your board again. Albula Q will come back during the standby phase. You use Albula Q again, bring back the Lancia. Use Lancia's effect to Lancia your opponent. So like, it just gives you endless resource to Lancia, which is absolutely disgusting. Because the only way you stop Lancia is if you bestial it, or you DD Crow it, or you D-shifter. So I think that's going to be an insanely tough kind of component for Malice to deal with later on. Mermails. I feel Mermails, I want to say Mermails are competitive. I wouldn't be surprised if I saw a Mermail deck at the top tables or YCS, to be honest. Especially with the new cards as well, like the new XYZ. It's just insanely good. I feel that it can outgrind a lot of decks. I feel that if it goes first, it still needs to eat a lot of hand traps. But the fact that most of their cards send from the deck to the grave as cost really does give them an edge. The fact of the matter is that they can also hand rip, which is damaging. They can minstrel, hand rip you, so they get to see your hand and lets them play around the Birus or any dedicated hand trap that might cause them huge issues. They can negate a board, they can OTK with ease. Like, I think Mermals are such an insanely powerful underdog deck that I would not be surprised if I start seeing them like consistently topping. Honestly, I think they're crazy good. And then the new card, I just want to confirm the new cards. That's all before the new cards. Mermal Supreme Darkness, because they got a new secret. They got a new trap card as well. So their new one is Poseidra, the Rumbling Atlantean. You can send one other water monster from your hand or face-up field to the graveyard as cost, special on this card from the hand, so they get a free level 7. So it means they've got easier access to their rank 7s. If it's normal special, you get to send an Atlantean or Mermail monster from your deck to the graveyard to target a card your opponent controls and return it to the hand. Your opponent cannot target this card for attacks while you control other Poseidra, a monster other than itself. So that's pretty good. It's all in its eternity. The new XYZ is a rank 7. If it is XYZ summoned, you get to target a level 7 or lower fish, C7 or aqua in your graveyard and special summon it. Water monsters you control gain 300 attack and defense for each material attached to this card. You can detach a material from this card to set an Abyss Trap from your deck. And the Abyss Trap, which is the new one that they've got, draw cards equal to the number of different types among fish, sea serpent and aquas that you control. You can't special from the extra deck until the end of the next turn after this card resolves, except waters. If a face-up water monster you control is destroyed by battle or card effect while this card is in your graveyard, you get to banish this card to add a Mermail monster from your grave or banishment to the hand. Like, yeah, their new cards are insane. I have no issues putting them where they are. I think Mermails are... annoyingly, Mermails is a deck that I now need to start looking at a little bit more to kind of face it and deal with it. How would the new Blue Eye support and Primite stuff work? Do you mean post-structure deck, or do you mean as it currently stands? If you get back to me while we're doing that one, I'll talk that through on the Blue Eyes. Okay, so the next one is Tenyi Sword Soul. The new Tenyi cards are insane. I love them. The issue is they don't really replace Baron. Baron is the one big thing that they've been missing for a while. I'm actually really excited about building this Sword Soul Tenyi version. The new cards are great. The issue is the Synchro is very aggressive. The new monster... is great for extension, great for consistency. But the synchro is, if it is synchro summoned and you have 2 or more worm monsters in your graveyard and or banishment, you get to add a field spell. Now that fits great because it lets you add any field spell in the entire game. If you were to make a spellcaster, you search Secret Village. You can search Summon Breaker, which I've seen people do. Ironically, you could have searched Mystic Mine if that was still legal, which is disgusting. It can search Necro Valley. Like, that element of that card is insane. This card gains these effects while there's a non-effect monster on the field. It can't be destroyed by opponent's card effects. Your opponent cannot target it with card effects, and it can make a second attack during each battle phase. Like, the new Synchro is insane. The fact it's a level 8 as well is such a great choice. It's a generic level 8, which is also mental because it now means that any level 8 Synchro style deck can search out any field spell that they want, which is amazing. And then the monster is if you control a worm monster or a non-effect, you special summon it from the hand. And if it is sent to the graveyard as synchro material for a worm monster, you can special summon a Tenyi Link monster from your extra deck, but it can't be used as Link material. So that's kind of... And then you lose life points equal to its Link rating times 1,000. So you'll probably lose 1,000 because you'll just spam out a monk. The only issue is it's a tuner, so it makes it a bit more difficult to kind of deal with Sword Soul, because more times than not they get rid of the effect monster. And it's usually the token that's the tuner. But then there are times when people will get rid of the token. You're like, okay, cool, well, I control a worm monster, I special summon down Syra, and then just synchro off into a level 8, which gets you into the new level 8. The new level 8 then gets you into a field spell of your choosing. So, like, I think they could be very, very good. And the fact they search out Summon Breaker and Summon Limit is insane, especially in a meta where they just constantly want to spam the board. Being able to play Summon Breaker is hilarious, because you would have already had a pre-set up board. You would have like Cheese Out, you would have that Synchro monster as well. You would then on top of that be able to have Blackout, Moyi, you'll have draws for hand traps. Like, the only issue the deck has is space. Like, I don't know how you're supposed to fit all of that and hand traps in a 40 card deck. It's just like real tricky. Blue Eyes. So how would the new Blue Eyes support and Primite stuff work post-Structure Deck? So post-Structure Deck, the way that it works is the Primites give you direct access to your Blue Eyes monsters. It also gives you direct access to Beryl, because in theory, Blue Eyes might not always need to use its normal summon. So when you get access to Beryl, that will then lead you to access to a Blue Eyes. It can also lead you into your Link 1. It can also lead you into Drill Beam, which is a constant form of negation and banishment. You'll have Roar in the graveyard, which lets you deal with your opponent's normal summon. And then you're working your way into more either rank 8s or you're working your way into Synchro level 9/12s. And when you work your way into the Synchro level 9s into the 12s, you're basically going into Spirit Dragon. Spirit Dragon can tag out for the new Blue Eyes monster, the new Blue Eyes Synchro. Then you make another one which tags out for Crimson Dragon. And then Crimson Dragon tags out using the level 12 Blue Eyes you've just made to make you a Stardust Sith Dragon. Or it can make you a Cosmic Blazar Dragon. Like, you just spawn out level 12 Synchro monsters. So your aggression is going to be there to complete the OTK, as well as your defense. And that's before you even take into account, like, Master Magia. And the best thing about that is the OCG aren't even using Master Magia now. So that's great. So, right now with Blue Eyes with Primites, it could be bottom end of the local level. Like, I wouldn't be surprised with that one. But for me, right now, Blue Eyes is probably sitting here. And once it gets to Structure Deck, it's going to jump to here, maybe even here. Like, I reckon it's going to be insane. I'm so disappointed that they didn't put Blue Eyes... Like, they shifted the Blue Eyes Structure Deck back a week, which means they're not legal for Birmingham YCS. I would have loved it to be legal for Birmingham YCS, because then I would have played it, hands down. Would have been so happy for that. Christrons. Christrons are insane with the new support. The big difference is, I'm pretty sure the OCG has Halley Firebrax. Let me just double check. I'm pretty sure they have Halley Firebrax. Oh, they don't have Christian Halley Firebrax. I'm completely wrong. Ignore me. I think someone was like, oh, Christian Halley Firebrax needs a errata. Okay, they don't have Christian Halley Firebrax, so ignore that. So they've got another, what's this? Christian Tristalos. When your opponent activates a card or effect, quick effect, special on a Christian monster from your deck except itself, immediately after this effect resolves, Synchro Summon. You can banish this card from the graveyard, destroy a Synchro you control, special 2 Christians from the deck. Can't special from the extra deck for the rest of the turn except machines. Like, yeah. What's the other one that people have been hunting for? Oh, people are trying to get this Sulfnir from Rate. This card's in the hand of graveyard, discard a Christian, except itself, specially in defense. Destroy one card you control. So you discard the Christian Tristalos, then you banish it from the graveyard, destroy a Synchro you control, and special 2 Christians from the deck. Lol. Yeah, I think Christians can be insane. I honestly do. I can't think that the only thing that's expensive in Christians right now is like the level 12 Synchro boss monster. But I would not be surprised if that gets reprinted as an ultra, as a common in OTS or a super in OTS. Like, it's due a reprint. So, I don't know enough about Christians to say that they will be competitive. I wouldn't be surprised if they become competitive, but I feel they have the same issue. Like, they could just lose to a D barrier. I'm not saying that that's always going to be the case, but I feel in early doors, like between like this week and next week, I would put them here. But then once people suss out the new cards, I reckon it'll drop down to here. So that's what I'm going to put it for now. Goblin Bikers, like, I think Goblin Bikers are anti-meta. I really do. I think they have such an insanely good matchup against Ryzo. It's crazy. Because they just detach all of their materials for the Goblin Bikers, which is great. Against Malice, it's really good as well because it absorbs them. And it also can absorb the Fiendsmiths. So when it's taking them and absorbing them, it's doing something that they don't want to happen. Like, Malice wants their monsters, if they're going to leave the field, they want them in the graveyard so they can then be banished. Or they want to banish them from the field. Whereas if they're being absorbed as material, you still need to get rid of your Goblin Bikers to then do so. And so I think Goblin Bikers is going to be, again, I wouldn't say an underdog deck, because I think people are well aware of them. But I feel that if people don't research and know what Goblin Bikers do, they're going to get massively caught out. Mitsuguris. Mitsuguris on their own is casual fun. And I'm talking about on their own being a ritual-based deck. You only play them as a ritual-based deck. You just play them as the strategy that they want to be played as. You don't play them with anything else as an engine. If you play it as an engine, you play it with the Ryzials, they probably go up to, like, not anti-meta, but supporting meta. So they'll probably be up to this level here. Honestly, right now, Mitsuguri on their own is like casual fun. As an engine, it's a competitive engine. There's no doubt about that. What's my preference? Exodia going first or Exodia going second? My preference personally is Exodia going second because I find it so much more entertaining letting my opponent build their board and technically play with their cards for 15 minutes, and then I just go Lava Golem, Millennium Summon, Exodia, OTK. Like, that to me is entertainment. Rather than me sitting there going, all right, you're on the Secret Village, and they go, cool, Kaiju. And you're like, okay, cool, well, I guess I'm on the Secret Village now. Or, cool, you're under a Secret Village and a board wipe, and they go, okay, cool, evenly. Like, I don't think that that's that fun. I think there's easier ways to break the board going first, whereas if going second, I'd have much more fun. So, like, even if it might not do as well, and other people might have more fun playing it go first, I personally like playing it as a go second OTK deck, because I think it's funnier. I really do. I think it's such a very good fun deck. So, Glad Beasts. I think the Glad Beasts new cards are insane. The only issue with Glad Beasts is they're kind of like Valkyries, that they do rely on the battle phase. So, the other thing as well with Gladiator Beast is they also rely on Think Brain. What do they rely on, Dale? They rely on the battle phase, but they also rely on... So, where's Bear? If you control a Glad Beast, you special summon this card from the deck. If you control a Glad Beast monster, special summon from the deck or extra deck, you can special summon this card from the hand. Treat this card, shuffle a Glad Beast monster from your hand or face up field into the extra deck or deck. Special summon up to 2 Glad Beast monsters from your deck. It's not bad. Like, the Link monster's not bad. They're like the image that I've got here for the wolf. Is it a wolf? Glad Beast Magister. Is you reveal this card and 1 Glad Beast in your hand to your opponent to special summon these monsters, which is really cool, because then if there's a Glad Beast that says, like the Glad Beast say, if they're specialed via a Glad Beast effect, if it's special by the effect of a Glad Beast monster, you get to add a Glad Beast spell or trap from your deck to the hand, so straight away that will search you out. At the end of the battle phase, when this card is battled, you can return this card to the deck, special summon a Glad Beast. So, like, the new Wolf is insane for the deck, and I'm amazed that Konami didn't make it a higher rarity, because they very easily could have done. The Fusion monster needs 5 Glad Beast monsters, but obviously you can cheat it out with some of the old Glad Beast fusions. If summoned this way, you can conduct your next battle phase twice, which is okay. But then once per turn, if your opponent activates a monster effect, you get to activate this effect based on whose turn it is. If it's your turn, you special summon a Glad Beast monster from the deck. If it's your opponent's turn, you special summon a level 11 or lower Glad Beast monster from your extra deck, ignoring its summoning condition. So it lets you basically spam out your Glad Beast monsters, which is really, really kind of cool. So the Glad Beasts are really cool. I would love to put them in competitive, but I haven't seen them enough yet. I would love to play them tomorrow at locals. That'd be really kind of fun. I feel that they could definitely compete at local level, and they might even go higher. Where we at? What we got left? 4 more left. Go away. I don't want this up here. Does that come up? Yeah, go away. Why is this up here? There we go. Okay. Argo Star. I'm not even going to spend time on that one. Sadly, Argo Star, casual fun. Like, I will pick up the Argo Stars. I've picked up 2 of the secret already. I'll pick up the trap card, and then everything else is like supers and commons, just to see what the deck's like. But honestly, I'm not holding my breath on that one. Speedroids. I think Speedroids have the issue with quite a lot that it locks it into Winds, and Winds is probably like the weaker of all the different attributes that we have right now. So locking yourself into Waters isn't that bad, but locking yourself into Winds can be quite damaging. So I think that they're definitely in the local level. I wouldn't expect them to compete high levels. Evil Heroes. I mean, I'm not talking this as like pure Evil Heroes. I'm talking about just in Heroes in general. Because pure Evil Heroes is probably casual fun. Heroes with the Evil Hero cards are definitely in like local level. I wouldn't put them up to compete right yet for the pure fact that they still just end on a Nibiru. Like, if your opponent has a Nibiru, you don't care what they do with Heroes. Like, the worst thing that the best thing Heroes can do if they get nibbed in the end phase is they go DPE, pop and pop. And then DPE floats around. And DPE is nowhere near as strong as it once was. So, Metamorphs, casual fun. Like, pure Metamorphs right now, casual fun. When we get the Red Eyes Claw, definitely local level and higher, because the Red Eyes Claw just take them up such a good level. The fact you can activate your Metamorph trap cards the turn they're set is insane. And then Machine style decks with the Clockwork Knight is local level. Like, probably more so casual fun as well. This card's insane. The fact it lets you search out Clockwork Knight is insane. The issue is, by the time you make this card and then search out your Clockwork Knight, it's not going to give you as much advantage as you might think. Because in Cyber Dragon, like I was saying earlier, with Cyber Dragon, you would have to special summon out your Cyber Dragon. In the past, what you do is you'd special summon out your Cyber Dragon, activate Clockwork Knight, and if they can't negate the Clockwork Knight, you just contact fuse your opponent's board. You would contact fuse their board. Whereas now, if you don't hard open up that Clockwork Knight and you're like, right, I need to search out my Clockwork Knight, as soon as you go into this is just so much more susceptible. It's like, okay, cool. Imperm, Ash, Veiler, all of that stops you getting to Clockwork Knight. So it's good to have, but it's only good to have if they stop the first Clockwork Knight. And can you actually activate more Clockwork Knights per turn? Let me have a look. Yu-Gi-Oh! Clockwork Knight. Can't remember if you can activate more a turn. I think you can. Or is it hard once per turn? No, you can only activate one Clockwork Knight per turn. So even if they negate your first one, all you're going to do is search out a second one for the full art turn. So it's still the exact same outcome. If they stop your Clockwork Knight, the benefit of that is not going to get you anywhere. Let me just double check the Clockwork Knight. One non-link machine monster with 1,000 or less original attack. If it's link summoned, you get to send a face-up continuous spell you control to the graveyard to add a Clockwork Knight from the deck to the hand. Target a machine with 1,000 or less attack in your graveyard. Tribute a machine monster, accept this card, and if you do, special summon that target in defense. I mean, yeah, it's basically like an extending card. Like, it will extend you further. It's not really there to help you get started. So, yeah. Clockwork Knight is better for being a link one for Cristrons. Yeah, it very well probably is. Like, just to have it, if you're just using it as a link one, then by all means. But like as a machine style to help you, I don't think it's, I don't think it gets you to the level that a lot of people are expecting it to get them to. And if you're using it to search out Clockwork Knight, I just don't think it gets you to that end goal, sadly. Okay, so I'm going to wrap the pre-recorded or the pre-recorded section up there now. I'll stay on for another 15 minutes to answer anyone's questions and go from there. But for now, if you're watching on the pre-record, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. Till next time. Stay safe. Of course, we'll be bringing you updates on all of the profiles that have been updated since Supreme Darkness as well, including the Evil Heroes. I'll be doing Argo Stars, Speedroids, Glad Beast, everything I can try and get my hands on at locals to then update for you all. For now, thank you so much for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Stay safe. And of course, happy dueling.